Ever notice how you come across somebody once in a while you shouldn't have messed with? That's me.
I am not an African American.
You're an Oreo cookie, white in the inside and black on the outside.
I don't have an afro, I have an Amerifro.
Talking that idiotic stuff you talk about, I would slap you.
Go ahead, make my day.
Black as the ace of spades, but 100% American.
Heard around the world by everybody and their mama. The Jesse Lee Peterson Radio Show.
Uniting the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies. We're also rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. Michael Donnelly is with me, attorney for the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. He is also a homeschooling father and a first Persian Gulf war veteran. I wanted to talk to Michael about a case here, his defense of the Romeike family, a German family who sought political asylum in the U.S. so they could homeschool their children and raise them in a Christian manner. Michael, good morning, sir, and welcome to the show.
It's great to be with you, Jesse. Thanks for your wonderful work.
Thank you, man. And I have a lot. I was reading about you last night, and I appreciate what you're doing for this family. It's amazing what can happen. Tell the folks who the Romeike family is and what's happening with them right now.
Yeah, the Romeike family are Germans who in 2006, 2007, made the decision to pull their children out of the German public schools and to homeschool them. The problem is that in Germany, people aren't allowed to homeschool. It's basically illegal. And in Germany, if you, and a couple of other countries around the world as well, if you try to homeschool your kids, the government will come after you. And so they came after this family like they've come after other families. And they started fining them hundreds of dollars. And in some cases, I've seen fines in the tens of thousands of dollars for parents who try to homeschool their kids. They have taken children away from families who seek to homeschool their kids. They have criminally prosecuted and sentenced mothers and fathers to months in jail for homeschooling their children. It's a very concerning thing of what's happening in Germany and in a couple of other countries, the Western countries.
Why is it, just in short, Michael, why is it illegal to homeschool your children there?
You know, the truth is, if the authorities wanted to give permission, they could. There's just no explicit law in Germany, any of the German states that sort of say if you want to homeschool, do this or that. You have to ask for an exception to the compulsory attendance law, and there are no exceptions, and they don't make any exceptions, virtually no exceptions. And the mindset in Germany is, hey, we, the state, are going to educate the children of Germany to accept the values that we're teaching in state schools, and you can't teach your kids outside of a government school or a government-approved private school, and there aren't that many of those. The Supreme Court of Germany has said that it's okay for the states in Germany to ban homeschooling because the general public have an interest in counteracting or suppressing parallel societies. You know, that's pluralism. This is amazing coming from the Supreme Court of a Western country, but that's what they said.
Yeah, it is, man. How did you get involved with this family? Because I read that you won political asylum for them, for this family to come to the USA back in 2010. How did you get involved? And congratulations on winning this case over there. How did you get involved with the family?
Well, it was a pretty amazing thing when we won in 2010. It was a federal immigration judge in 2010 in Tennessee that granted us asylum. It was really the grace of God at work. But I met this family when just through other homeschooling families who knew of the work that I was doing at HSLDA in defense of persecuted homeschoolers in Germany and in other countries, and they called me and said, hey, do you know about this family? And I didn't, and I talked with them, and they said they wanted to come to the United States, and I said, well, if you come to the United States, we'll see what we can do to help you. So they came, and I got to know them. They're a wonderful family. They have 6 children. They're a beautiful family, you can see them on our website. If you go to hslda.org/asylum, you can see that we have a picture there, and you can read about the case, and there's information there that people can learn more about the family.
Repeat that website again, Michael.
Sure. It's our website is hslda.org. That stands for Home School Legal Defense Association. hslda.org/asylum, and people can get all the information they want about the case, read the briefs, read the government's briefs, learn about the family.
When you say that it's all the grace of God that you won and that, God is behind this, it occurred to me, and it always has occurred to me, it's amazing how God is, because a lot of times when you get into a situation, you cannot see with your physical eyes how this thing is going to turn out. But if in your heart you're doing the right thing, you're doing it with faith, you take that step, and it's like success unfolds by itself. It's just one thing leads to another. And I love that about God.
Amen. I completely agree. This family, they uprooted themselves from Germany with a dream to be free, to homeschool their children, to teach their children their values, the Christian values. This is a Christian family.
Yeah.
They wanted to teach their children Christian values. And they moved 4,000 miles with the hope that they would be accepted here in the United States. And they won that asylum case. However, the government appealed it. And so we had to argue before the Board of Immigration Appeals, which overturned the judge's decision. And now we are appealing it to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, where we hope we'll gain some kind of a victory. We don't, we're just trusting that God is going to work in this situation. He has been for the last 5 or 6 years in this family, as he does in all Christian families, and for all of us, really.
Yeah.
But, we're just stepping in faith.
When you say the government appealed the case, was it our government or the government from Germany? Of Germany?
This is all happening within the United States. So all of this case is under United States asylum law.
Really?
Okay, it's all under the Immigration and Nationalization Act, which allows for asylum for a variety of reasons. One of those reasons is religious beliefs and if you're being persecuted because you're a member of a particular social group. And those were the two arguments we made, and that's the basis on which the immigration judge awarded asylum. But it was our government, the Obama administration, that appealed the victory, and now we've had to appeal to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Why is it that our government is appealing this case? Why?
Well, you'd have to ask them the why. All I can tell you is what they're arguing, what they've argued in their briefs, and what they say is that they've said that homeschooling is not a fundamental right, therefore it shouldn't be the kind of thing that you can win asylum for if you're not permitted to do it in your home country. They've said that Germany, because they equally deny people, the opportunity to homeschool their children, which actually isn't true. The government's actually wrong legally in their briefs, and that's one of the things that we're going after in the argument at the Sixth Circuit. But they're saying because nobody can homeschool, then that's okay.
Oh, my goodness.
And that's very concerning to have our government making those kinds of arguments.
Michael, let me take a short break. We'll come back and take some calls at 888-77-JESSE. I want you to really get involved, folks, with this particular case, because if our government can appeal this particular case, helping these folks from Germany, the Mikey family who were homeschooling their kids over there, and it's against the law in Germany to homeschool your children, so they came here, and now our government is overturning or trying to overturn the asylum that they were able to get, thanks to Michael Donnelly, the attorney, back in 2010. They got to stop homeschooling here. Believe you me, one thing will lead to another one. Michael, before we get back into the dialogue here, how can we help you, we the people, help you in this case, or with this case?
Well, I think the first thing that we need people to do, Jesse, is to pray and to ask God to intervene and on behalf of this family to give them favor in the eyes of the civil magistrates that they're going to be before on April 23rd in Cincinnati, Ohio. We're going to be there. Michael Ferris, my boss, who's the founder of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, is going to be making oral argument on their behalf, and we're going to be arguing a number of things. It is concerning to see our government arguing these things. And I will say this, in our justice system, we have an adversarial justice system, and so somebody has to take the other side.
Yeah.
And it's the job of these government lawyers to do that. And what they've done is they've put forward professional arguments, so that the judge can look at both sides of the equation and make a decision. We hope the judge will decide in our favor.
You know what's interesting?
But,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
No, Michael, finish yours.
I was just going to say that, what's disappointing is that, number one, that they appealed it in the first place. And, this government has certainly, in certain cases, decided not to appeal things or not to defend laws. Yeah. And it's just disappointing that they didn't choose to do that in this particular case and recognize the important freedoms that are at stake here and let this family stay.
Last night, it occurred to me that this Obama administration is just the worst of the worst, Michael. I never imagined for my whole 63 years on Earth that we would have the type of president and the type of government that we have in America today. It's mind-blowing. I thought of the issue of this government refused to defend the Defense of Marriage Act in support of same-sex marriage. They refused to protect our borders and yet grant amnesty to illegal aliens. And I don't just mean the Hispanic, any kind of type of illegal person coming across the border. They just released illegal aliens from prisons and jails back into our communities. And yet we have a family who really need our support and who have won this case to stay here and homeschool their children, and they want to appeal that and send these folks back home. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it doesn't make sense to me either, even in the context of, the fact that we have an adversarial justice system. The Attorney General, Eric Holder, if he wanted to, he could just, with a letter, he could write a letter, and this would be over, and the family could stay, and it wouldn't even set precedent. But we're going forward, and we are going to do the best we can for this family, and by God's grace, we're going to win, and we're going to establish some precedent here. And there are some interesting legal issues that may not be quite as interesting as some of the other topics that we can talk about. But we're excited about this case, and we're confident that God's going to be working in it, and whatever happens, He's going to get the glory.
And you may have already answered this, so I may be answering a question that you're asking, a question you've already answered. Is the Obama administration endangering or infringing on the right to homeschool in America?
Not directly. All of the laws on education are at the state level, and it's legal in all 50 states here in America to homeschool. And, it wasn't always that way, by the way, Jesse. 30 years ago, the same things that are happening in Germany to homeschoolers were happening to American homeschoolers. And, through a lot of hard work, and again, by the providence of God, in 50 states, in all the territories in the United States, it's legal to homeschool. An option that I think, I would encourage and challenge every father who's listening right now to consider whether or not home education might be a way that God would call them to execute their God-given responsibility to train up their children in the way they should go.
Yeah.
It's not the only way that fathers can raise up their children. And regardless of what kind of education your children are receiving as fathers, you have a responsibility, I have a responsibility to make sure that we train up our children and to acknowledge God and to glorify Him. But home education is a great way that people can do that as families, and I would encourage anybody listening today to consider it. And they can get information at our website, hslda.org, to learn more about how they can get started homeschooling if they want to.
We're starting my organization is starting a Bond Leadership Academy for boys, and we're doing it in the homeschool style, where we're going to educate these kids and inform them and, the values of God and living right, rewriting and arithmetic and history in the right way, but we're also going to teach them a trade while they're going through school. So if they decide for whatever reason not to go to college, they would know how to take care of themselves or would be able to take care of themselves. So we're doing that here in Los Angeles.
That is very exciting, and I am so excited about what you're doing, Jesse, with your ministry and your focus on fathers and calling fathers to turn the hearts of the children and the fathers towards one another. I am very encouraged by what you're doing, and if there's anything I can do to support you. I encourage you to consider that.
Thank you. And the same here to you. According to the Christian Post, the U.S. Justice Department is arguing that the freedom to choose to educate one's own children is not a fundamental right. Is that true?
It is true. That's exactly what they've argued. And, as we said, it's disappointing. It's concerning. It may not be a direct attack on home education in America, but it certainly reveals what the government thinks about it. This government, says that it's okay if people are equally persecuted as opposed to equally protected. They've confused the idea of equal protection with equal persecution. In Germany, everyone's equally persecuted. They can't homeschool, which is a fundamental right. International law even recognizes that the parents' rights to choose the kind of education that their children should receive is absolutely fundamental. It is so high in the standards of international law that it is ranked up with anti-slavery, anti-torture, and anti-genocide principles of international law. That's how important this right is. And when you look at the history of Germany and other, not just Germany, but other countries that have used education as a weapon to advance a statist mentality, you can understand why the international community and international law puts it up there. And, frankly, the truth is this. It was America that put it there. Decades before the UN Convention, the UN Declaration on Human Rights was written, in our country, our Supreme Court recognized that the right of parents to direct the children's education is fundamental. And that was directly why it got put into the UN Declaration on Human Rights. And so in our country and around the world, it's recognized as a fundamental right, and our administration should be defending that right, not attacking it.
Well, we're going to keep up with this case. Give out your website again. We have about a minute left together, Michael.
Well, I'd encourage people who are interested in this case to go to hslda.org/asylum. And while they're there, they ought to look around hslda.org, the main page, and check out the resources we have and consider whether homeschooling might be the right option for their family. It's a great option. Children do very well academically and socially in homeschooling, and I would encourage folks to investigate it for their families.
Michael, thank you for what you're doing. You're in my prayers, and we're going to keep up with this. I'll have you back as well.
I look forward to it. God bless you.
God bless you, my friend. Back in a moment.